by it 8,000 times, and I've even been given free passes to go to this hot spring many, many times. Well expired, but I've never been there, so I'm really excited to do that. And I was called to do it today for a variety of reasons. Everything is beautifully ordered on the planet in the way that it's unfolded to me, often in backwards order of not knowing point A to point B, because it usually goes backwards. And there's an element issue going on right now. Elements, the nature of earth, air, fire, water, and ether, that has always been very prevalent in my life in terms of like balancing those, because my chart is, I've got like one earth sign and it's my rising, thank God, or I'd like float off into space. The rest of me is mostly, I'm just basically fire and air, which explains so much. I just expand with passion. But also I can be a little ungrounded at times. And so it's good to invite in more of those. And I only have one water sign actually, too. So I have one earth and one water, and the rest of me is just like, ah! So during my awakening process, I've been spending a great deal of time with water. I like shower and then take a little bath afterwards to meditate. I take baths frequently, salt baths, which is like an earth element, to allow for like the soaking in and the purification and the healing of the salt, and then the water absorbing into my body and all of that. Just to try to get some balance, especially when I feel particularly imbalanced. But today I'm going to the hot spring in part because I think that the sulfur is important for me right now. The heat and the sulfur and the healing elements of those things together with water are really important for my body with this transition that I'm going through right now. And that sounds like really cryptic to say, but we're always transforming. And I feel like the Kundalini awakening process is always like offering opportunities to shed skin in a new way, to reveal something else that is beneath, that has been percolating, like in a chrysalis or what have you. And that is definitely breaking open right now. Largely, we have a lot of identities that follow us in our lives that shift. Like we're our parents' children, we're students, we're partners, friendships, bosses, employees. We have all these roles, and the stages of those roles alter, and sometimes it's hard to let go of those roles that we really identify with personally, even if those roles are potentially painful or challenging. And there's a lot of transformation right now for me in roles when it comes to my family, and also professionally, and also spiritually. Everything comes in 7-year cycles, and my 7-year cycle is completing right now. It was 7 years ago that I started my private practice. And I can feel, as I felt with my previous 7-year cycle. Wow, that is so right on the nose, because that previous 7-year cycle it started when I finished grad school. And then I went into like healthcare, and then I transitioned to private practice. Both of those were 7 years. And when it was approaching, I could feel it in my like insides, like I was gonna burst out of leaving healthcare, formal healthcare. And I feel that right now with my practice, and it's absolutely beautiful and and not even terrifying like it was when I left the last one. That was terrifying, but this isn't terrifying. This is very much like being held and gently like carried from point A to point B in a trust fall, and also in this 7-year cycle, what feels like what is being completed is also a era of caregiving for my parents that are going through their own transition right now, and that brings with it a lot of dynamics that are painful, and releasing of things and revisiting of things and healing things, and redefining old stories, frankly. So I have been humbled about 1,000 times over in the last week, and all the time previous to that, of like what I think is true and immovable about my family members, even my sibling, my brother, able to come and help me when I actually need help and ask for help, which is a key to getting it, I have learned. So when you ask for it, then people can know that you need it. That's a little cheat code for you. That's been a thing for me to overcome in this lifetime, is not doing everything on my own. But these roles that we assign to other people or to ourselves, they feel fixed and impossible to change, and sometimes they are changeable. Especially our narratives we apply to other people when we think that they're impossible to change. And that, to me, has looked like, with my family, really the most beautiful softening I could conceive of. All of us in my family are very intensive people, mostly internal. My mom has always been like kind of that communicator that doesn't stop talking, a lot like my daughter, and the rest of us are very much mulling inside of our brains, trying to figure out the answers to the universe. But when certain things are stripped away from you, for both of my parents, everything has been stripped away from them, slowly or quickly, in every conceivable way over the past, since the spring of 21 was when it really first started happening. My mom's blindness and confusion, my dad's confusion, everything my dad is and enjoys, and he's my favorite person. I couldn't ask for a better father in this world ever. I was so blessed. He is the gentlest, kindest person that, like, if you know, you picture a Disney princess and animals in the wilderness flocking when she sings. My dad is the masculine version of that. He could just be around and all the animals flock to him, and also little children. They're like, look at that man, I want to smile at him and say hi. And he just doesn't even do anything. He's just like sitting there, minding his own business, looking adorable, and things flock to him because he's safe and he's kind. Especially cats. It's interesting, but he's, if you were to imagine the most capable human being on the planet, that if there's a problem, you can invent a solution. If there is a barrier of some kind, it's going to be blocked. It's going to be thrown down. He can find solutions to anything, or he could find a way to build anything. He could invent anything. He was an artist, leather worker, a builder, a welder, a carpenter. He could do absolutely anything to survive or to thrive. And he could cook, and he could sew. He could do all these things. Best friend and his dog, outdoorsman, could keep you alive. Like, he could hunt. He knew how to clean anything, catch anything, honor the body of anything, preserve anything. The man is incredible, and everything he loves to do was taken away from him because of his cognition, his tremor, that makes it nearly impossible for him to use any kind of like fine motor skill, his balance, chronic back pain, and he's got one eye that's blind. So now he can't do everything he loves, literally everything. And my mom, completely blind and very confused. My dad's like a different kind of confused, but both very confused. My mom's kind of a fiery personality, or was. I would say was a fiery personality, in that very opinionated, passionate about everything she believes in. Very intensive about religious views, and she would not say religious views, she would say her belief in Christ is very strong, exemplary in the way one can feel loyalty and love to their God. And it's historically been a very rigid belief system around what that looks like. And you know, you would think a person goes blind from being sighted. You would think that that would make them scared or angry or something. Not my mom. Not my mom. She has never once felt victimized by it. And for a long time, for about 10 years, she could see light and dark. And this last year, she stopped being able to, everything's gone. And she is just a joy. She actually forgets she's blind sometimes. She'll make statements that, oh, well, I'd love to see that. If I'm talking about something like a dress I just got or something, she's like, oh, I'd love to see that. Well, Mom, you can't see that. Oh, I can't? That's right. I'm blind, you know. But she's never felt sorry for herself. She's just been told that God told her to go the distance. And what that means to her, I'm not sure. I think it means just keep going and keep living. And she always says she's ready to go whenever God wants to take her home. And I think that's going to be pretty soon. Because it's been a hard run these past several months. And what's great about this time, of which there is very little, aside from the exhaustion and the stress and the constant needing to, you know, being the primary go-to person and finding that the care they're supposed to be receiving is not care at all, and having to navigate my own ego and not threaten to kill people, frankly. Be my highest self in all ways that I can. Breaking down frequently. I have had the absolute privilege of watching my parents, who have been married since 1964 and who've always been fairly kind and loving and congenial toward each other, but not really what I would call in love. I have watched them fall in love with each other. Like pure love. It's so beautiful. And so and love really conquers everything. It makes things mutable that were once fixed through the heart. The heart can actually transform anything. And it's transformed both of my parents. And for them to come to a place of being fully in love with each other in this way, at the same time, reciprocally loving each other, that they had to both lose almost everything that gave them ego. Almost everything. Like the senses, the capacity to like logically make decisions and interact with their world had to be stripped. And now they hold each other and they say, I love you. And they get excited to see each other. Even though my mom can't see. When my mom had surgery last week and then she came back to reunite with my dad after, it was like they'd been gone for 10 years and couldn't let each other go. It was so beautiful. And I wasn't, a person that grew up seeing their parents be passionate or loving toward each other, just like kind of stoic like Germans can be. But this was absolutely, like, my daughter had to walk away and she started crying. It was too beautiful to even witness. And so things can get altered and changed, and the stories are different because love actually can melt away every barrier, like every single one. And so putting that in your pocket of just this week, there's been so many miracles handed to me, and confirmations and gentle supports and synchronicities that are too numerable to account, truly too numerable. But last night, within this like overwhelm of this like contrast of like the disintegration of my parents, simultaneously with the creation of other things in my life that are really exciting, I was like, to heck with it, I'm watching a Disney movie. I'd been wanting to watch Elemental for a while, and the previous night I had some friends over from the Lightworker Web, spontaneously, really. We were going to watch a different movie entirely, but we ended up watching Raya the Last Dragon on Disney Plus, and it was just like, holy crap. They don't even like hide things in these movies. It was just so Kundalini. It was so Kundalini, and so was Elemental. Elements came up heavily for me yesterday, and I watched that movie and saw how much I related to the main female character, who's made of fire and has a hard time not popping off within her passion. And that popping off and that is really built around perceptions she thinks are fixed, that are not fixed. They are simply perceptions that she believes are true. And once they're actually communicated, relating to her parents, once they're actually let out, once they're actually expressed in honesty, all the limitations dissolve from the heart, because it's all through love that she's able to do this. She falls in love with water, a character that is made of water, and she is made of fire, and you would think those two would kill each other, but it actually created a chemical reaction that allowed them to like become boiling water. And it's oh my gosh. Yes, I cried, because there was Kundalini there too. Kundalini heals everything. And I see it's all through this heart space. And so the things that are fixed are mutable through love. I've seen it with my parents, and I've dropped into my heart space from my head that has been running the show my entire life over the last 2 years, dropped into my heart space. And from doing so, I have access to potential that I didn't give myself before. And that potential is part of this new 7-year cycle that I'm going into, and releasing all these old fixed stories. You know, when you think you know how someone's going to finish their sentence because you know them so well, what if they go off the rails and they change the script? That's what's happening in this world right now. And I think that can happen in everybody's world. But it has to happen when we release the ego and strip that down and embrace not knowing, and the potential that what we think is true is an illusion, and just being aware all is possible. It's the only thing it takes. It's just being open to the possibility that what you think is possible is actually something else entirely. And then everything changes. How perfect that I am say that. Things that are fixed can be mutable through the heart and the elements. And I'm going to go commune with some elements now. And I'm going to immerse myself in a hot spring, plunge underwater like a baptism.